Hi, it's your business executive coach, Lori McNaughton, coming to you again with another short video. And as most of the videos that I've shared with you this far have been related to, how do we maximize the potential of the people we work with? The title of this particular video is called Why Most Workshops Don't Work. Here's the reason why most don't work, and most of you can relate to going to a workshop, going to a conference, and listening to some really awesome speakers, and then going away and getting back into the workplace, and the next thing you know, the phone's ringing, you got customers complaining, you got team members not showing up, or team members disgruntled, whatever that might be, and pretty soon you're just completely back into the way that you'd been doing things in the past. So I can change your mind in a minute, but unless you change the brain, and I'm going to share a little bit about that in a minute or two, unless you change the brain, you're just going to default very quickly back to how your mind works. And there's a big difference between what I call the mind and what I call the brain, and this is based on science. My first experiences where a workshop literally changed my life was back in the early 90s. Because not only did they change my mind about life and about how I, access the best of who I am, but they literally changed the wiring in my brain. And I can remember for weeks after that, driving someplace and just smiling for no apparent reason. I felt at that particular time equipped to take on the world. I could do anything, and working with the best of the best. So we have to change the wiring in our brains. Now, being a lifelong learner, I've been to a lot of workshops over the past 2.5+ decades, and I've seen literally the best, and I've seen the, I'm going to call them not so good. I can't say that I've been to a workshop that completely sucked, thank God. But I've been to some that, there was some good information there, but it didn't change the way I did things. So, and I've spent most of my adult life learning and getting to the bottom line of what really makes people change. And I didn't do this because I wanted to change other people in the beginning. I only wanted to change myself. I wanted to become the best that I could be at whatever it was that I had chosen to do. At the time I was in sales, I wanted to be the best salesperson that I could possibly be. After that, I started going to Toastmasters and doing presentations. I wanted to be the best do the best presentations that I could do. And then when I got into the coaching profession, I wanted to facilitate the best workshops. I wanted to be the best coach. I wanted to be not just the best coach, because I was always in the 15-year tenure I had with this coaching organization. There's anywhere from 800 to 1,000 of us at any given time. I was always in the top 10 to 15% of coaches in terms of client retention and dollars banked, which are two key areas that we use to measure people's success. Because if you had good client retention and you had good dollars banked, then obviously you're doing good work. So, reading and studying and books and recordings and going to, like I said, workshops in person, and then the practical application of doing workshops, I've learned the sort of firsthand what makes me a pretty good authority of what works. And pardon me, that's what makes me a pretty good authority about what works and what doesn't work. I'm going to share with you what I've learned from a practical sense of what works, and you'll get an understanding of what doesn't work based on what I said about what does work. Because if you've been to workshops, whether it's personal development or professional development, you can tell whether or not it worked or not. And then, like I said earlier, some of you would be saying you left that workshop like buzzed, motivated, ready to take on the world. And then within a week or so, or less maybe, you were just back to doing things the same old, same old. So, and this is why the workshops that I've designed and the workshops that I facilitate are the kind of workshops that change people's lives. Because I know, based on my own personal experience and based on, like I said, hundreds and hundreds of hours of going to workshops and conferences, and then facilitating workshops and conferences myself, I've gained a really good understanding of what works and what doesn't work. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I'm just going to give you the quick lesson on the brain and how it works. And through that, you'll understand why past workshops didn't work for you. So the brain, very simply, is this little gray mass that literally would fit in, might even fit into the palm of one hand. It only weighs 3.5 pounds approximately. And it's made up of 75% water. And it has about 80 billion neurons in it. These are neural connections, neural pathways, neurons where you create pathways of what you learn and soon become part of who you are. It creates your personality, and that personality starts to create your personal reality. And so those neurons that fire together wire together. And this is the key to making a workshop that really lasts and changes organizations at its very core, is understanding how the brain works. So the mind is this consciousness that resides within us. And the brain is this thing that's like your supercomputer. It's like it's got all the connections in there. And as I mentioned, I mentioned in previous videos, when you're born, you really have a clean slate of, like, if you look, and anybody who's had a baby or held a baby in your hand, and you look into that little baby's eyes, you know it's just sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. Of course, it's not even capable of that because there's no language there at all. There's no language. It's just looking and seeing, and just an incredible thing to experience. For those of you who have had that opportunity to experience that, I know you know what I'm talking about. So as that baby grows and it interacts with its parents and its siblings, and then, as it gets older, it then interacts with maybe religious leaders or schools or whatever, and it starts to make connections between these neurons. And some of these connections start to create your personality. So I can do anything I want to. I'm creative. I'm a master at everything I do. I'm friendly. I'm fun. I'm open. I'm a wonderful person. Those are all connections that are made inside your brain now. Unfortunately, and this is, I don't want to blame any parents. This is not about blame, because this knowledge and information, this way of being, is passed on generation to generation. So your parents learned it from their parents, who learned it from their parents, who learned it from their parents. Now, every once in a while, somebody breaks that mold and breaks right out of it, which is awesome. And that's part of the reason why I do what I do, because I want to help people break out of those patterns. But if you were one of the unfortunate people who didn't get that kind of support growing up, and you maybe got lessons about life, like life is difficult, work is hard, money is the root of all evil, you're not very smart, you're shy, you can't sing, you can't. And these neurons are being connected, and this starts to shape, again, your personality, which your personality then starts to create your personal reality. And so you can start to all see this now, because you can see why this person over here thinks that, they walk on water, and this person over here, they could have all the great things happening in their life, and they just can't see it. Or maybe nothing good happens to them because their neural connections are all about, I'm worthless, I'm not good, I'm just a whatever. So these connections are solid and hardwired. And that's why, like I said earlier, if you go to a workshop and somebody says some things and you go, wow, and it changes your mind, you say, you know what, I can do anything. I am the best at what I do. I really can do anything in my life. And then 2-3 days a week, maybe as much as a month later, you're just back to the old way of doing things. And that's because you didn't rewire the brain. You changed the mind, you changed that consciousness in the moment, but it didn't go below the analytical mind. It didn't go below the logical mind. It didn't go below the conscious mind to get into the subconscious mind and then rewire those connections. And neuroscience tells us that we have neuroplasticity, meaning we can learn and change at any time in our lives. And the best way to create new connections, new neurons, is by learning something. The challenge is that for some people who, haven't read a book since they went to school, since they left school, or they haven't, gone to any workshops on personal or professional development, they don't understand that how you can change that. But now that you've changed the mind, now it's time to make those connections. And then repeat, because neurons that fire together wire together. Going back to the previous conversation about how your personality is created. So you snip that neuron that says, work is hard, and you snip it and you change it to work is fun. But then you go to work and damn it, it's hard. And it stays hard because you weren't able to change that connection. And this is why I love working in organizations. I love working in the business sector and working with teams, because I want to change the whole dynamic of this. And then I'm going to offer some coaching just to make sure that we keep firing those neurons into the future over a period of time till they become hardwired. So here's some simple facts that I think you'll find interesting. And that is that we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Most of those thoughts are not like what I would call thinking. So if I ask you a question, then you start thinking. So you go into your prefrontal cortex and you start thinking. Thoughts mostly come from the limbic brain, which is where the memory is stored. And they're just a bunch of random things that you read, or movies, or people have said to you, or experiences that you've had over your lifetime. And they're just all completely random in a jumbled up mess. And if those thoughts are not the kind of thoughts that support you in being the best that you can be, then unfortunately it's kind of like rinse and repeat. So those same 70,000 thoughts that you had yesterday, last week, last month are the same thoughts you're going to have today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. And this is why people have difficulty breaking out of the certain paradigms about how their life works. And this is why the workshops that I do are so effective, because in part, what do? I do 1 and 2 day workshops, and the whole process that I take people through is to start to create a really safe place where people can become open and without fear of any kind of retribution, or fear of being made fun of, or fear of any kind, because we don't want people going into survival during a workshop. We want them to come out of survival and come into what I call the present moment, because this is where, thinking about the past and thinking about the future is not going to help you create something in the present moment. So my job is to keep people really present throughout the day. And I slowly start to create this safe place for them to open up and become more open to who they are and what's possible for them. And then I work with them over a period of months. So it'd be like a Zoom. So I do the workshops. My preference is to do the workshops live and in person, because I want to have that interaction and experience between people. But then when we follow up, we follow up via Zoom calls. And we do this over a period of 6 months to a year, once a month, twice a month, depending on the program that we set you up with. And all that's designed is to bring it back and start to hardwire those connections, so that we're, as I said, firing these neurons again and again and again, and hardwiring them so that they become who you are instead of something outside of that. So, changing people's lives is not just about changing their mind and making them feel good for the day. That's not what my workshops are about. My workshops are designed to change people's lives. And I've seen it in organizations where, like, I'll just use an example here. I did a workshop for a company. We had 35 people in the room, and two brothers own this company. It's a pretty decent sized company. One brother takes way more control, and the other brother does more of the logistical kind of work. But the one brother's really a shy, introverted person. And so, in the process of me breaking people out of their shells at the beginning of the first part of the day, he basically stood up and said, I am a very shy person, and I'm not going to do a lot of talking. It's just not who I am, blah, blah. That was it. Quiet. So throughout the day, as I get people, as I said, opening up and experiencing things differently, I see this with everybody. I see this all the time. I've seen this numerous times throughout all the workshops I've conducted in the past decade, 2 decades. But what I loved about this particular moment in time, and I see this often, is this guy stood up at the end of the day and spoke for probably 3.5 minutes, very eloquently about the team and about the company and the direction that they're headed in, and how confident he was in that. If you're interested in having me conduct a workshop for you, I do 1 and 2 day workshops. And then, like I said, I follow up with Zoom calls after to make sure that we continue to wire those neurons together and make real change, not just change in the moment. That doesn't serve anybody. My purpose in life is to literally change people's lives. And I do that through working with companies and organizations where I can have, a group of people come together. And my feeling about this is that when I help you become better and think better and do better, you'll help those people around you do the same thing. So I feel like in the world of Laurie McNaughton, I'm having a bigger effect on people in general, and really working hard because I love the idea of changing people's lives. So if you're interested in me conducting a workshop, as I said, I do 1 and 2 day workshops with some follow-up to make sure that we continue on the path of learning and wire those neurons. Just go to my website, lauriemcnaughton.com, pardon me, and book a 15-minute discovery meeting. We'll have a quick conversation just so I can make sure that this is something that I can help you with. And then we'll book a longer conversation if you're right here in the city of Edmonton. I can come and sit with you. We can go for lunch. We can go for a coffee. If you're outside of the city of Edmonton, we'll have to make other arrangements. We can do this via Zoom, obviously, or Teams if you have Teams. And it's really at this point just to get my understanding of you and what you want to see happen and the results that you want to have happen. And one of the things that I do with clients is I get them to tell me what the results that they want, so that at the end of the workshop and at the end of the time that we work together, they can go, we hit this out of the park. Versus, like, I work with a lot of businesses, and I've done this for, like I said, in many of my videos, past videos. It's going to be actually 20 years this January. And I've, helped companies double, triple, quadruple, and more revenues, and the same with profits. And I've helped business owners going from working 5, 6, 7 days a week down to working, 30, 40 hours a week, or in some cases even less than that, and gotten amazing results with some clients. But what I want them to do is to tell me what is success for them. If they say, if I'm working a 40-hour work week, or I'm working a 20-hour work week, or our revenues have gone from $1 million to $2 million, or our revenues have gone from 5 to 10 million, or our revenues have gone 10 to 20, or 50 or $100 million, and I have work-life balance, and I have a team of people that dedicated and hardworking. I want them to tell me what the results are, and that's what I'm going to do to help you get what you want and provide you with the results that you want. So again, go to lauriemcnaughton.com, book your 15-minute discovery meeting. We'll have a quick conversation. We'll go from there. Appreciate your time. Have yourself a good day. Oh, by the way, subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends, and like the videos, comments if you want. And I look forward to the opportunity one day of being a service to you and helping you and your team go to incredibly new and fun and exciting and adventurous heights. Thanks again.